We're back to the Neil Haley Show, and my guest today, when I talk about employment expert, oh, I feel for my guest. So I'm excited to welcome to the program Beverly A. Williams. What has happened, Beverly, when it comes to no one wants to work anymore? Am I wrong, or what has happened with this great deciding I'm going to retire early or I'm not going to work a job anymore? What's going on here?
The great resignation, the great retirement. I don't think people don't want to work. I mean, I think we're realistic enough to know that we have to earn a living to take care of
Well,
ourselves.
they're
We
going to
don't
earn a
expect
living, absolutely.
we
So
have to
what's
take
going to
care of
happen if
ourselves.
everyone is a mini business person? What's going to
Everyone
happen to
isn't a mini business, but everyone doesn't want to go into business for him or herself. People want what they call a fair wage and something
agree, agree.
a living wage. I don't know what that is, because as soon as the wages go up, the prices go up.
Right.
Yeah,
So yeah.
food. So
So
if you get a
what do
$10 raise,
we?
it's gone in gas and groceries, and you even haven't even had a vacation.
Exactly. So what's my point is so if no one works for a job, so like I'm looking at my expanding my business and I'll be hiring different people at one point in time again, and as I did before, subcontract. But if no one wants to work and they all want to be their own mini business person, is that going to survive? Or are we going to start seeing a cycle where employers are going to finally figure out to keep their employees happy and make it more of a 2022 type of atmosphere, not the days of 1980 where you're punching a clock? Do you think we're going to see that cycle so that people will say, I just couldn't really run my own business. I thought it was great. Then I found out at the end of the day, I owe so much in taxes, or I really couldn't maintain my clients. And I'd rather work for a company that's going to pay me what I'm worth. Will we see a cycle happen again?
The operative word is worth. People will work for someone else if they feel that they're being compensated at a level that they should be compensated.
Absolutely. So do you think that's better than compensating them to that level than doing it themselves? But we all know, Beverly, the number of businesses that fail is like 90%. 90, it's outrageous that people think just because they work for a big company or are in corporate, they can go out and start their own business. That's a bunch of.
Of course it is. And everyone who's motivated by the great resignation is not of that mindset.
Well, what do they do? What do you see?
They could go to another company and make more money, hopefully get a job that will pay them better and treat them better.
And they only work 40 hours instead of work 150 hours. Because when you own your own business, you're going to work 150 hours, bottom line, or not that, but it's not like the days of, hey, I'm going 9 to 5, or I'm going to work maybe even 10 hours a day, 50 hours a week for this company. They're paying me really well. And I can just go and when I leave, not think about it anymore. When you're a business owner, you think about things 24/7. So when is it going to be like people like you, Beverly, that are, and I know you are, that are going to educate people to say it's okay to get the best employment possible? It's
absolutely.
Well,
that's the American way. I mean, we always want to improve our circumstance, don't we?
Yeah,
we want to shoot for the stars, and I don't get the impression that people don't want to work. They want to be fairly compensated, and from my perspective, I don't know what that looks like.
Right, what's fairly compensated? So, for example, there are a lot of good jobs out there, even in the space sector. If we're talking the space sector, people that they're taking people that don't have certain degrees. But the problem is, then you have a situation where they're still treating you like a serious employee and not giving you any value. When do we, I guess the wages have to get to a level where someone's going to make 6 figures or more, or even higher than 6 figures, maybe even like, upper 6 figures, for them to not say, I'm going to do a business, run a business and survive and never get sleep or see my family, versus doing that. Those people are going to have to cut their profits a little bit to get employees. Do you see that happening? That's going to be the big thing, and compensate people the way they're worth.
When you've got shareholders that you have to answer to from the corporate perspective, you have to be very circumspect with how you go about your business, because you don't want shareholders to sue you saying that you've been derelict in your responsibility to shareholders by doing X, Y, Z, or 1, 2, 3, and reducing profitability. Shareholder value is important if you're a publicly traded company. We know that.
Okay. All right. So based on what I'm saying is, what tips do you offer people that, are saying to themselves, they're weighing the options. I have a skill set. I'm really good at that skill set. Should I go and do it myself or go ahead and work for somebody else?
I think personal circumstances will drive the decision. Seriously.
Healthcare would probably be one of them.
Healthcare, finances, how much money do you have socked away? Can you sustain your standard of living? Do you have a family that you have to support? Do you have children that you have to be concerned about? Can you sustain your lifestyle, your family's lifestyle, and fund a business at the same time? Do you have enough capital to do those things? And if you don't, that will make you hesitant to jump out there and try to do it as an entrepreneur. But if you have a marketable skill set and you've engaged in networking aggressively, robustly, and you have contacts, and your personal brand is such that you're an attractive candidate for leadership roles, technical roles, if you have all those things, and many of us don't, you can position yourself to market yourself and what you bring to the table in an attractive package so you can get those 7 figures, if not immediately, over time.
But not working for somebody, working for yourself. You're talking 7 figures.
If you're working, it depends. Now, if you're working for a pharmaceutical company, a high-tech company, you can make that money if you have certain skill sets.
You're a CEO, right? Or a high level.
You don't have to be a CEO because you have perks.
Okay. And then you don't have to worry about losing sleep in the thing. I think that right. Everyone's teaching people to become business owners right now. And I think this is a great topic for you to talk about. And I'm sure you have, but I'm really breaking it down for you. There are people, we're walking and, going to a Walmart, and literally there's one cashier. Okay. We are seeing a specific situation with this process where people are thinking they are not able to work, but they're going and doing other things. They're creating other things.
And some of them will be successful.
Absolutely.
And some of them will not.
A lot of them won't, if we're seeing the percentages of businesses, because you have to be your own accountant to start out. You have to be your own HR. You have to be your own tax accountant, not just accountant for counting every month. You have to be your own salesperson. You have to be your own customer service. You have to add all these things to the boat versus.
And how many people are qualified to assume those roles?
Except, hey, you're a social media influencer, but I wonder
you have no choice because you can't afford to hire anybody.
I bet you, Beverly, and we're having a fun conversation, Beverly and I bet you not been on an interview. This is a great kind of back and forth. I love this conversation because it's really getting me going. The problem is, and then we have all these people teaching people instead by paying courses, they have a brand, and teaching people they could be entrepreneurs or business owners, and yet they don't know how the heck to teach them. They're telling them all these things that it's simple. You can do it. No, I believe there's a special quality to someone who's an entrepreneur or a business owner.
Yes.
That is willing to sacrifice a heck of a lot of things, a heck of a lot of sleep when I was younger, a heck of a lot to create a brand. And it doesn't happen overnight. And there's lots of things. So Beverly, you work in the employment end. Are you talking to entrepreneurs as well, or are you focusing more on them?
I did a TV show based in California, if I remember correctly, and one of the other guests was a serial entrepreneur. He is now my mentor. I mean, when I heard him, I was in awe. It was like, no, I've never done a resume.
Who's this serial entrepreneur?
I'm not. You can go to my podcast. Go to my podcast. You'll find his interview. I'm like, he's never had a resume. And he has multiple degrees. He has a law degree. He has a degree in accounting, in marketing, and in business. I'm like, wow. So I said, you know what? I want to interview him for my podcast. It was amazing. I mean, seriously, there are very few people like him. Very few people like him. But I think people should aspire to whatever they desire and step out, if not on faith, step out with hard work.
I'm gonna
And
tell you.
if you fail, regroup.
See, the thing I chose to be, if I again, I've been told entrepreneur, the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner is different things. That I'm a business owner because an entrepreneur creates an idea or something that's new and innovative, and that's the difference in the definition between business owner and entrepreneur. It's a very interesting component. An entrepreneur can't be just somebody who, has a product, service, sells it, and does these different things. No. That's not an entrepreneur. It has to be something innovative and out of the box, like we talked about, like an Elon Musk. That makes an entrepreneur. I Google that. That's an interesting definition. So I'll call myself a business owner because this person called me out on that, because I didn't know that. I always considered, anyone an entrepreneur if you're trying.
I haven't heard that explanation, but it makes sense.
And so because they're going to be and they're game changing, life changing type of situation. So we talk about the Elon Musk and SpaceX or different things like that. But there's other people that on Shark Tank that have done that. They're not business owners; they're entrepreneurs. When I think about the amount of sacrifice and tears and things I went through, I would do that far more than go to a day job. I've done it. I've done the corporate world. I've done the teaching world, and I would never do it again. And I would never go to work for anybody again. But that's some mindset that I have.
Right. But to thine own self be true. You know yourself well enough, and you've positioned yourself so that you don't have to do that.
Right. And everyone told me I'd fail after I quit my job again the second time. They said I'd fail. I'm happy what I'm doing, and that's it. But I'm
that's half the battle.
That's it. It's half the battle.
The other half is being able to
exactly. But see, a lot of people who quit their jobs, they better have a plan A to understand that you got.
They don't have a plan. I watch Sunday Morning, and I saw this young man. He was seated at his laptop, and the segment was about the Great Resignation, and he said, I know I can do better. I know I can do better. I'm learning cybersecurity. And I'm thinking to myself, cybersecurity, is it that simple? Can you just learn it like that? And I wonder who's training him. How did he identify those people? Is this a scheme and a scam? Are they taking his money? I mean, seriously, I was so concerned that people might be being duped. I ran across a woman who had an employment background, and for some reason, I just asked her, I said, do you know anyone who's an expert in cybersecurity? She said, yes. She said, go to LinkedIn, here's his name, and tell him I sent you. That's what I did. The man responded right away. He is a cybersecurity expert. I interviewed him for my podcast. It is easy to get a job in cybersecurity and to train in cybersecurity. Who knew? It is
because of that.
It is.
And then you develop it, and it's more of the IT world and different things. And there's opportunities there.
And they're looking for people. That's right. There are job opportunities. They're looking for people. He said you can go on YouTube and get some of the training, and the people who are delivering the training, you should get in touch with them. They will help you.
So how is it now that, I guess you really define this? You really have to sit down and really think about things when you choose between being a business owner, we're not being the entrepreneur, business owner versus being an employee, and decide if you luck out and you find a great job that pays you really well and you keep growing up that and you can move up that corporate ladder, that company's going to be around forever. And there's some that are, trust me. And you could go up to having to go as high as you wanted to. If you truly have that aspirations, you should weigh both those options. But if you're at a certain age in a certain situation and you've done that and you're cut your teeth and it's better to be a business owner, do it. But these people that are doing it now just because they're a social media influencer, they should talk to these NFL athletes that made millions of dollars and have blown it all at once.
It
Because
breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
oh my goodness.
Oh my God, it breaks my heart because I watch ESPN and FS1 all day because I can't stand to hear anything else. Everything else gets on my nerves. I mean, you know, it's just very distressing.
Right.
So, and I'm not a sports fan. I never watched the Super Bowl. I don't follow basketball, none of that stuff.
Right.
But over the past few years that I've been watching sports media, I mean, I am so knowledgeable about what's going on in sports. But when I hear that these young men have thrown away a golden opportunity to change their lives and their families' lives for generations behind marijuana, some other fine form of drugs, violence. I mean, when I heard that the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers had been killed in a traffic accident, I was like, how is that possible? I remember watching the draft a few years ago when he was drafted and so upset because he wasn't taken sooner. You know, it's just heartbreaking, but there are lessons to be learned.
Exactly.
I wish I could work with them because, see, I don't talk like other people talk. I don't have any children.
You have all the talent in the world. So you have a book. Because we're only a 15-minute interview. We could talk for hours. You could be.
Oh yeah, we could
talk. I used to have my talk show, my education talk show that I did for years, live on WRCT and 88.3 in Pittsburgh, and syndicated it. But we just talked education for an hour. It was just a debate. It was fun, and I remember those days. And you're bringing me back to somebody that can go to my level, have a conversation, meaning and back and forth, and is confident in the media. But you have a book now. Where can we pick up that book?
Yes. The book is Your GPS to Employment Success, How to Find and Succeed in the Right Job. And it's available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Business Expert Press, and independent bookstores across the country.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for stopping by, Beverly.
Thank you for having me, Neil, anytime. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're listening to the Neil Haley Show. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're sitting on your butt, watching TV, and you're surfing for something good. Just grab your remote and follow me to Bethel Park TV. BPTV, BPTV. It's at Comcast 7, Verizon 32, and even on YouTube. Made by Bethel Park residents, it's a little slice of heaven, 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 heaven. Be sure to visit BPTV, BPTV. Be sure to visit BPTV, Bethel Park TV.
We're back to the Neil Haley Show on the Total Celebrity segment. I'm excited to welcome to the program Camryn Manheim. Camryn, what's going on? Thanks for stopping by. And I know you're excited about this guest starring role on Law and Order, especially this is the 21st season. Can you believe it?
You asked me what's going on. No big deal. Just on Law and Order, 21st season. It's so exciting for me. I did Law and Order 30 years ago. I did a couple of episodes. It was always something very dear to my heart. And then I was just minding my own business in Los Angeles, and I get a call from the Dick Wolf universe saying, do you want to come and play with us? and be on our show. So I came in December and I've been here ever since, and just making, stories and hoping to delight audiences with our show,
Exactly. Let's talk about specifically enough, 21st season, your character. And if this case coming up on Thursday really speaks to you, doesn't it? Especially to your character from back in the history of when you were on Law and Order before.
Yeah, it's a really interesting, based on a true story, inspired by a true story of someone who is serving time in jail right now. Lieutenant Kate Dixon, who I play, she had a case many years ago that she was unable to solve, and she just had to chalk it up as an overdose and not as a murder, and it haunted her. And a new case comes through, Precinct 27, and she sees a lot of similarities. And her detectives don't understand why she is so vehement about going after this person. There's not a lot of evidence to go after, but she just knows. And so she goes after it like she hasn't gone after anything before. And I got to really, pull all my punches. And it's really disturbing and kind of awful, but hopefully they get to the bottom of it, and you'll have to watch to find out.
You have to watch to find out. That's such a great point. But also the point is, what makes Law and Order so special is the fact that these cases are real, that there was a case similar to that. And people just, sometimes we don't see it on the news unless we go to local. We're talking about only a few things, and we don't know about the things that really could affect us more, especially in our communities.
I mean, that's really a good point. We see the top headlines, the sexual abuse, but you don't see all of the little things that are happening in our town. And that's why Law and Order is so amazing, because it is really trying to tell the story of just, the regular people in our lives. And another thing that I love so much about how Law and Order is so respectful about how they handle these cases is that TV is really the principal driver of our culture. Viewers are heavily influenced by how these institutions are portrayed on TV. Everything I ever learned about law was from the practice or Law and Order. So we take a very serious approach at getting it right, following these cases as they would be followed. We do it quickly and in a short amount of time. Sometimes these cases last for years and we do it in 44 minutes, but we at least are trying to be true to the story and, make sure that we're bringing justice the way it should be brought.
Exactly. Bringing justice, making sure you're doing it the way you need to do it. And everyone needs to tune in Thursday, April 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC, Law and Order. I appreciate it, Cameron, for you stopping by. And I tell you, what a great an experience that you never know to get to be back on Law and Order. It's got to be cool. And I know you're excited about your fans seeing you again on Thursday. So thanks again for stopping by.
Thank you so much. And thanks for tuning in.
You're
welcome.
welcome.
Love you guys.
All right. You're listening and watching the Neil Haley Show. And we'll be back in just a moment.
So Nick, did we forget anything? I think we're missing one cable. You know what I mean? No. Can I help you guys? What the? Where are we going, fellas? What the? Hey guys, what's going on? So come to BPTV, where we have everything you need to make great TV shows, including the cables.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show. And I'm also the sports category director for Podcast Magazine. And I'm interviewing somebody who, again, was an arch rival as a fan, growing up as a Steeler fan, Eric Metcalf, three-time Pro Bowler, Cleveland Brown, and much, much more. Eric, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Sure.
All right. So let's talk. As I love your setup with all your on the wall of fame of all the things you did. Did you imagine when you started that you were going to be, did you always want to be a football star? Was that something growing up you wanted?
100%.
Okay.
And it's because of this picture right here.
Okay.
My dad.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Okay. All right.
Well, because of Terry Metcalf, I wanted to be a football player because that's what my dad was doing. And so, you know, a lot of times we grow up as kids, everybody wants to do what their dad is doing. You know, whether it be a fireman, a police officer, what have you. My dad was a football player, and so that's who I wanted to be.
And that's so right off the bat. So how young were you when you started to want to throw the football with your dad and really be into this? How young?
Well, you know, the thing about it is my mother and father, they had me in high school. And so when my dad really got to playing, he was in college and I was young enough where I could go to the games, but you know, so he wasn't around at that time as far as me playing catch with him. But I started playing football at 7 years old. And I remember my mother telling me she was going to take me down there to sign up for football. And she said, but she kept saying, when you get there, you have to tell them you're 8. Because it started it was 8 and 9, 89ers. And I was only 7. She's like, you got to tell them you're 8. And so I went down and I was like, I'm 8 years old. And a lot of my friends were going also, and they weren't 8 either, but we were all saying we were 8 years old. And so that's when I really fell in love with it, just because that was that first opportunity to get out there and play in pads.
So starting out at the beginning, now, did you have a little weight on your shoulders because your father was such a good football player?
You know, as a kid, I never really thought about it. I mean, I'm sure other people did, because I would always hear older guys and people talk about they can't wait to see me play if I ever play and everything. And I remember hearing people talk about that, but I never even really thought about the weight or the pressure of being Terry Metcalf's son until I got older. And then when I finally got older, the only time I didn't really think about it because I was good at it. I mean, if you're not really good at it, I think you feel that weight or that pressure. But I knew early on and when I was playing that I was pretty good at it.
So you knew you were pretty good at it. Now, were you one of the best players on your team all the time? Because people think about, you know, a professional athlete, they have to, that's the thing. Everyone says, hey, I want to be a pro football star. I want to be a pro basketball star. You have to be the very best of most of the time than everybody. Was it always you were the best, or was it a process to get better and better to become
to be honest, I think I was the best football player on my team until maybe somebody would say somebody in Cleveland. But from little league on through high school through college, I was the best player on my team always. And I there's no doubt in my mind, and that's not a slight against everyone else. It's just reality of it. And so and then if we talk about Cleveland, I probably think I was the best player there, but it's all debatable on what you like and who likes me and who likes other players.
Exactly. So let's go. How much of it was talent, and how much was preparation?
Well, at a young age, a lot of it was just talent. It was genetics, God-given ability. At 7, 8 years old, I was probably faster than kids 9 and 10, 11, 12. And so I always ran track in a older age group because it wasn't, my coaches just had me run with the older guys like on relays and everything because I could help the team better than someone else could. So at a young age, it was more so, like I said, talent and genetics. And so I knew then that if given the opportunity, I would be able to be successful at it. The only thing I worried about at that age was I was really short. I was really short, and people, and I think people was like, oh, he's too small to go out there and play football. it's not going to work. And I'll never forget my dad used to tell me, don't let anyone tell you you're too small, because that's the same thing they used to tell me. He
Were you
said,
guys the same, close to the same height, you and your dad?
um, as players, yes. When we got the NFL, and yeah, we were about the same. So he was maybe an inch taller. I was maybe a little heavier, but yeah, he used to tell me that, and so I never really worried about it. I just went out there and played and tried to do the best that I could.
When you think about size and small backs, and what do you think makes the small back so elusive and such a, I mean, if you think of the greatest small backs, I think one of them would definitely be Barry Sanders. And then you think about that, it goes on and on and on, different people. Why is it everyone thinks they need to have the prototypical running back when what you could do was so many different things and make you so versatile?
I think it's cycles in football. I mean, because when my dad and those guys were playing, they used a lot of smaller guys. My dad, Greg Pruitt, guys like that who could do a lot of things. Catch the ball, run the ball, and return kicks. And then the cycle changed, and they were using these big old guys who were playing ground and pound football. And now it's gotten back to a game where, because it's so spread out, that guys my size can prosper, because you have the Christian McCaffreys, you have the Dalvin Cooks, you have Alvin Kamara's, and those guys who can do everything. So they're more valuable to a team. So it's all about how the game is being played. And right now, I wish I was playing in this game, because when I was playing, it wasn't played like there was more big backs, but guys like myself and Barry Sanders, we had to try to figure it out, and Barry did as well, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And they figure it out, because everyone say, oh, I want the big back, but then you find out what you can do as the prototypical running back. So I'm jumping back into the whole thing. Now, were you so you said you were the best player in high school. How much were you recruited to go play college? Because again, you're a smaller back, even though you're doing so well in high school and you're the best player on your team. Were you highly recruited out of high school?
I was recruited by almost everyone. And I mean, I had so many letters from schools that I just got sick of it, but I wasn't ready to make a decision. So I actually took my 5 visits. I went to Notre Dame, I went to Nebraska, I went to Georgia, Texas, and Miami. And so, there was so many other schools that I could have gone and visited. I didn't want to. And so, because in my mind, other than going to Miami at the time, I was thinking track also. And so that's what I was thinking about it. So I was heavily recruited by everyone. I think size did play a factor into a story I heard later on after I was at Texas. So like, once I was being recruited by Texas, they asked me to send my film. And they told me that all the coaches were in there watching my film, and Fred Akers was our head coach, asked the staff, what do they think? And he said, they told me it was unanimous that everyone was like, no, he can't do this in the Southwest Conference, because I played in a private school league. And so they thought the things that I was doing, I couldn't do that on a bigger scale. And then Coach Akers told them, well, I think he can, and the rest is history. I guess I could.
So right out your freshman year, were you playing a lot, or did it take time to get to that?
No, I played a lot as a freshman. I didn't start, but I played a lot. I played every game. I mean, when you've been carrying the ball and catching the ball in your entire life, you always wanted more. So I feel like as a freshman, I could have had it more, but it worked out the way it did, and I'm fine with it.
Exactly. It is what it is, happens and everything. And when you were here at Texas, how good were you guys when you were at Texas?
Well, we won in my 4 years. I think we won 24 games.
Okay.
And so my freshman year, we won 8, and we were ranked. And my junior year, we won 7.
Okay.
7 or 8, and we were ranked. But other than that, we weren't very good. And I'll never forget. I'm glad you asked that, because I got to Texas, and of course, we're not going through pads and all that, but once we really start playing in practice as freshmen, I'm, I, I go to my college roommate and I was like, either I'm real good or Texas football isn't what they make it out to be. And he looked at me and he just says, why can't it be both? And I was like, you got a point there. So, but I was like, I guess I think I'm pretty good, and it's gonna work out for me.
Wow. I mean, and so playing in Texas, was that did you love the campus and stuff, especially the Saturdays in Texas?
Oh, I loved it, and I still love it. I mean, the only thing I regret about the whole time being there is that we didn't win enough games. I didn't beat Oklahoma. I lost to them 4 straight years. I didn't beat Texas A&M. I lost to them 4 straight years. The 2 teams we're supposed to beat, right? And so that's the only thing I regret, is that our team as a whole, we weren't good enough to win those games. We gave ourselves a fighting chance, but we weren't the team that like everyone feared on Saturday afternoons. And so if I could change anything, it would be and that's it. That we won more football games, because I had a blast of a time when I was there, and it was good football. We just didn't win games, and I was, even as a freshman, I was like, I didn't get the ball as much as I wanted, but it was still good football. It was fun, and I know it's gonna get better. And because even Mike Lombardi came to me as a freshman, and he was at our pro day, and I didn't do anything because I was doing track at the time. And he was at the 49ers then, and he comes to me and says, I'm gonna draft you when you're a senior. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. He's like, I am. I promise I'm gonna draft you. And bam, look what happens. He's at the Browns, and I get drafted.
So what were you like, wanted really well in the NFL like you were in college? Or did they think the small back, well, we're going to take a chance on you type of thing, the Browns? Or was it they knew it was a really good draft pick to draft you?
I think that guys knew that I was a good football player. And it's not about, I think it was more so the fact that I could do a lot of things. I could play running back if I had to. They see me split out as a receiver in the Texas offense, return kicks and punts. And so when you get someone who can do all those things, I think regardless of size, people take chances on them. And I don't say it's a chance on me because I went in the first round, but they figure I could do these things in the NFL and be successful with it. And I think that's why the Browns, I know that's why the Browns traded all those picks and moved up and got me.
All right. So a lot of times now we're again talking to Eric Metcalf. And I think that in a lot of ways after your career in the NFL, people were like, where's Eric Metcalf now? Now he has a podcast. We're going to get to that soon. But going to the Cleveland Browns, how amazing the time you had with the Browns, because think about it, you were winning, you were very close many times, just didn't get to the Super Bowl.
It was amazing, and which is 180 from what I thought it was going to be. Because, when I got to Cleveland, when I got drafted by the Browns, you're happy to be drafted. Everybody wants the ultimate dream and goal to be drafted and be playing in NFL. And so I was definitely happy with that. I never really thought of myself playing for the Cleveland Browns, though, when I was coming out and working towards the draft. In my mind, I wanted to be in LA with the Rams. Mm-hmm. I had friends, and I thought I was Hollywood kind of guy, and I should be in LA. And then I got drafted by the Browns. I go to mini camp in May, and it's snowing, and I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna work, because this is May. What's gonna happen when it's November, December? It's gonna be really snowing, and they're playing on natural dirt, not natural grass at that stadium.
No, that's natural dirt. Yeah,
that was natural dirt. And so I was like, how am I going to be able to play the way I play in Cleveland? And so, and didn't really think about it. I held out my rookie year because of contract. Finally get there, started practicing and playing, and everything was smooth sailing. I had a world of a time. The guys took me in like I had been there forever, and we were winning games, and I was getting to do the things that I wanted to do. So it was great the entire time I was there. I wish I could say I played my entire career with the Cleveland Browns, but even had I not got traded in 1995, I still wouldn't have been a Brown my entire career because the team left.
Exactly. The team left. And so that could go to the stories of being part of that. But you were part of two, I guess, of the hardest times of your life, right? Against the Broncos, right? 2 years. You were both years, right?
No, I was only there once in '89. So yeah, I missed the drive and the fumble, and then they just beat us. In '89, they beat us out there in Denver in the AFC Championship.
Oh, so you were a year before. So you weren't there those 2 years. So your rookie year was in '89.
Yes.
Okay. So you were the supposed to be the thing that was going to change everything, right? You're the guy that final missing component of the Browns. And so you had a cast of characters on that team, right? For sure. Remind us some of the players again.
We had Webster Slaughter, Reggie Langhorne, Kevin Mack, Ozzie Newsome, Eddie Johnson, Clay Matthews, Felix Wright, Hanford Dixon, Frank Minifield, Tony Jones, Mike Babb, Brian Brennan.
Yeah.
We had a slew of guys. We had a very good team. We had a good team player wise. We had good coaching. We just, it just didn't work out for us. I mean, and it was funny that year we thought we were going to the Super Bowl. Reggie Langhorne, myself, and Webster Slaughter, we used to always talk about who was going to be Super Bowl MVP once we got into the playoffs, because we were going to play Denver in the AFC Championship. We had already beaten them during the season. We're like, we're gonna go beat these guys, and we're gonna be in the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, they didn't listen to us, and they won games, and it never
So
happened.
was 3 years in a row that you guys lost to the Broncos?
No, I think no, they lost 2 in a row, and then they didn't make it to the championship the next year. And then when I came, we went back.
Oh, okay. People always remember the drive and fumble and forget that year.
Right. And so, and so what's crazy about it is when you play in the NFL and you get that close, especially in your rookie year, you think, there's no way I'm not ever going to make it to the Super Bowl. But no season's the same, and there is a way I'm never going to make it to the Super Bowl because it never happens.
Maybe now it would have been a lot easier in the way they give opportunities for teams to, based on these the schedule always giving teams that win a lot to have a more difficult schedule. That wasn't like that then.
I mean, even the year before I got traded in 1994, we were 11-5, and we didn't even win the division because the Steelers did. 11-5, 12-6 if you count the playoffs, and 3 of our losses were to the Steelers. And so it was just a tough road, and people take for granted, especially like if you've been playing in New England in the past few years, you take it for granted that you can get to the Super Bowl. When you have people like me and other guys who never got to the Super Bowl and just had hoped to get there, and I because my whole career I was like, I could just run out of that tunnel one time on Super Bowl. I'll worry about winning it later. I just want to be able to run out of the tunnel as a player. That used to be my thing.
Wow.
But it never happened.
Never happened. But you did have some pretty amazing things. Now, talking about I didn't know that you're part of the move then, right? From the Browns.
No, I'm not, because they played their last season in '95. They traded me in the spring of '95 to Atlanta. So they played that last season. I was already in Atlanta.
So but you knew it was going to happen before that, right?
I had been told, I had heard little rumblings of it, and so not only did they trade me and they weren't winning games, but I felt good because I got to go to Atlanta and we went to the playoffs, and so I had fun that year. I got the ball a lot. I caught 104 passes. I ran the ball. I returned some kicks. I returned some punts. And so I had fun doing what I thought that I would do my entire career in Cleveland.
Oh, wow. So getting traded. So you had rumblings of this before the trade. Then once you were traded, you're like, thank goodness I wasn't part of that whole get up and leave, because everyone, you're a beloved Brown if you would have went and been part of that move, who knows, right? And at least in a way you can stay a Brown forever in a way, because those other guys, they had to be part of it and part of that Raven process, and how, Cleveland people still are upset about it, right?
Yeah, but I think in cases like myself, I think no matter what, because even still today, people in Cleveland treat me as if the Browns are the only team I play for. And that's how I actually feel sometimes. I mean, that's because I love the Browns and love being a part of that tradition for so long, that I feel like I did enough things and played well enough there that people want me to be associated with that franchise when we're talking about people from Ohio and Cleveland Browns fans. So I feel good about it, regardless of whether I was traded, even though I asked to be traded or not. I just feel good that that I did enough good things for a storied franchise that people associate me with them.
Did you play? So you played for the Falcons, and that did you play with after the Falcons? I thought you played a couple other teams.
So the Browns traded me to the Falcons. I played there 2 years. I left to San Diego as a free agent. They traded me to the Cardinals. And so then I played 1 year. I went to Carolina and played with the Redskins. So I guess it was a theme of me getting traded. I got traded to a bird each time. Right.
And that's where you became more and more special teams, right? Then, right?
Yeah, because it was towards the end of my career. And at that time, no one was going to use me like I wanted to be used. So it was kind of tough. I mean, all these so-called offensive geniuses couldn't figure it out, right? And were scared to be innovative as they are today. When we're talking about June Jones and Miles Davis and those guys, and everybody in at the Oilers, when they were using the run and shoot, people like, this can't work. This can't work in the NFL. This will never be successful. Now everybody's running a form of that, right? And so, and that's what's successful, and that's how people are getting all these points and all these yards. And so people back then were just scared to do it. Now you have guys who are just playing, putting their best players on the field and trying to win games. Because if you have 4 or 5 people like myself who play running back, receiver, and all that, and you spread everybody all over the place, what can a defense really do? And that's what these guys have picked up on it in these later years.
All right, so let's go from, we talked about life after football. Did you have a decision? Did you know what you were going to do after football? Your football career is over?
Nah, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I do know that because of my track background, that I wanted to be involved with track. So prior to actually retiring, I had started a track club here in Seattle.
Okay.
For high school kids, and so during the summer I would train these guys, and I'd had other coaches, obviously. So when I went to training camp, they would take them to the national meets and all that. But I was really involved with that because I was trying to give these young guys, because it was all high school guys when I first started. I was trying to give these guys an opportunity to get to college on someone else's dime, right? Because everyone can't be a football player, everyone can't be a basketball player, but you can go run track anywhere, and you can get some money from schools from all divisions and make it easier on yourself. And so that's what I was trying to do, and I established that. And then I later on brought girls on, and I was really coaching us. Then I started coaching high school track.
Okay.
I coached football, high school football, with my dad and at another high school for a couple of years, but it's not really my thing. I don't really like it because to be good at it, you got to really work at it. You got to put in a lot of time. But track, I was able to be more one-on-one with these kids, and so we were doing well. My team won state championships. I had a lot of guys and girls who made like U.S. national teams. Did a lot of people who won national championships at Junior Olympics and everything like that. And so then that evolved to me coaching track at the University of Washington.
Wow. Okay. So coaching and track. So,
Yes.
so were you happy you chose that over coaching football? If you're a good coach?
Yeah. Because my thing has always been like when you're coaching football, I could coach, say, Randy Moss.
Right.
But if we don't have a quarterback or a line, you'll never know that I'm coaching the best receiver in the league. You never know.
Right. That's right.
But whereas when we're talking about coaching track, no matter what event, the kid doesn't have to win, doesn't even have to make the finals. But you know, when you coach that kid, if they're improving, whether it be height, distance, or time, they can win every meet or event they're in without ever winning because they're getting better every single time. And so that's what I like about that as far as the individuality of it, is that we can tell how kids or athletes are getting better regardless of what happens in the other lanes.
Absolutely. Okay. So how long did you coach for? Are you still coaching track or?
So I coached track at UW from, I want to say 2012 to like 2018. And at this time, for most of the time, I still had my track club. I kind of just let that go away because it takes a lot of time. But now I do consulting with Nike Track and Field, and a lot of high school kids and everything like that. And so that's what I'm doing now. So I'm still involved with it in track, but not so much coaching it anymore.
Got it. All right, let's talk about the podcast. Did you ever think you were going to do a podcast? Was that something when someone approached you to do a podcast? How did that happen?
You know, it's kind of weird because prior to COVID and all that kind of stuff, I was thinking I should do a podcast, but I didn't know what I really wanted to do it about, you know, because I didn't know, because I'm into smoking cigars. So in my mind, I wanted to be smoking cigars and talking sports or whatever. That was my mind. But the thing is, how was I going to be able to get this done? You know, because I would want people to be there smoking, but in order to do that, you got to be around these guests.
Exactly.
I didn't ever know how that was going to be done. And then, you know, when the Believe Network contacted me and they said you can do this about the Browns, I'm like, okay, I could do that because I do a pre-game and post-game show in Cleveland on Channel 19 WIOIO there. And so that's fun, but you can't really say what you want to say. So
yeah, in the podcast you could say more. Yeah, you're
right.
Trying to be politically correct in a way and not rip the coaches or say certain things because you know it's a Homer show, right? Compared to when you're doing a podcast where you can really break things down with the
and you know, and a lot of times people don't like it, but it's okay because it's my opinion, and when it's your opinion, you don't have to really apologize because that's your opinion. Everyone has their opinion, right? And so I think when I talk Brown stuff, and a lot of people get mad at some things that I said, but when I tell them the things I'm saying are from my experience as a player. As a player, that changes your opinion and your experience as it, because my experience as a player as to what happened or what I think should have happened is different than yours. And so I like having that perspective because I'll use Odell Beckham, for example, when he was with the Browns. People were talking about he was mad, he was hurting the team because he wanted the ball and he wasn't getting the ball, blah, 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 when you should be about winning. And I said, I understand this, but when we were 11-5 in 1994, I asked for a trade because I was not getting the ball like I wanted to. And so as a player, you like to win, but in the end, it's about being an individual and being successful as an individual, because that's what's going to get you paid. That's what's going to get you noticed and things like that. So I understand how he felt, and they were losing. And he's not getting the ball. So that makes it even worse, right? And so these are the kind of things that I'm able to try to get across to these people, to people on fans on the podcast.
And by the podcast, that gives you a lot more, I guess, accessibility to the fans with a podcast, because now they're reaching out to Eric Metcalf versus reaching out to the Station 19 or different places. So what you're saying, you're making that connection with your fans that are listening and seeing what they want to hear and what they want to talk about, compared to if you're like on another station with certain types of sponsors, it's on the radio, where you really can't do the way it's your podcast. You can do a little bit more. You can really break things down more, and you can hear the feedback from the fans in a little different way than if you're doing a drive time show, right?
Right. Yeah. Because you sit there and you can say, okay, I want to talk about Kevin Stefanski today. And I can just go on about that where, you talk
Because you're
about
not working for callers, so you can.
right. So when you're on TV and everything, it's about blocks, and we're going to talk about this in this segment. And so no, I'm going to talk about the defense today, or the offense, and what have you, and why we're not doing whatever. And I love having that ability to just do and say what I want and talk about the things that I want to get off my chest with my host as well.
How much time do you put into the podcast weekly to prepare?
It all depends. Like working up to the draft, I try to figure out. And it's hard because no one ever knows who we're gonna draft. We know what we need, but who we're gonna draft. My thing right now is I feel like we got to get Jadeveon Clowney, so I'm trying to get him back. So I'm keeping an eye on that kind of thing. So I'm always in the news in Cleveland, trying to search things, trying to see what people are talking about, especially because I'm here in Seattle, so I'm not getting all that same news. So it makes it a little harder. But I'm always trying to poke around and see if I can find some stuff, just so when it is time to have a show that I can talk about and be up on it.
That's great. That's definitely. What about social media? How's that changing, especially having a podcast? Have you put more time and emphasis into your social media?
I not as much. I probably should. I only have Twitter. I don't mess around with Instagram and all that. But
Twitter is the best for sports, so stick to what you know.
Yeah, but my thing is, I when I get on there, there are so many times that there are things that I want to say to people, and I'm like, I can't say that, and so it's not fair, and so so I won't say things because if you know me, I'm one of those guys who will snap back real quick, and I can say real stuff that'll like get you. But I always find myself typing things and erasing it. Because I'm like, nah, I can't do that. I can't get into it with this person, and then because then I look like the bad guy.
And because you're in Seattle, do you travel to Cleveland sometimes for the games?
I travel to every home game.
Every home game, okay.
I do every home. Actually, I have to do the TV show every home game.
Okay.
I do in studio away games. I get to do it from Zoom, and everyone else is in the studio.
Okay, so you're doing that while also the podcast. But so the podcast is not as much of the coverage as your full-time job, or not full-time, but one of your TV gigs. So you go the home games. So you're the face of the Browns in certain ways of all that stuff. So that kind of changed. And I'm interested for another story or another time, I guess, to delve into how you went from coaching track, then to back into the analyst position. Do you want to go to any of the bigger ones to be an analyst? Do you want to end up on the NFL Today at one point, or ESPN or all that?
People have asked me that, and I think if given the opportunity, I would definitely do it, because that's when it's get bigger. You're getting at a higher level. However, I do like being able to go back to Cleveland every week and talk Browns. I like being in that environment because it's different than being there when you play. I feel like I have more fun. I'm able to just interact with people more doing now that I'm retired and doing this. And so I get to find out what people are really thinking when we're talking about the coaching or the players or what the Browns should do. And it's more fun. I have fun doing that. And so I like being in Cleveland and doing things there. But obviously, if I was given the opportunity to go bigger, I would probably do it.
All right. So where can you go ahead and check out your podcast? Is available at the Believe Podcast. And what's the name of it again?
The Dog Check at Believe Podcast Network.
All right. Awesome. And again, check you out on Twitter and make sure he won't respond negatively, right?
Just don't start a fight with me. Just don't start a fight. We'll be all right.
Is it just at Eric Metcalf?
At Eric Metcalf 21.
All right. Well, fantastic, Eric. We appreciate you coming by, talk about this, and be part of for Podcast Magazine. And I won't hold it against you. You're a Cleveland Brown. I think you dealt with the same thing as the Steelers and Browns were trying to grow together to get to that pinnacle. And then the 90s hit, and then the Steelers became more of the Steelers while the Browns became no longer. Till now, and the
That's
season.
okay because that's okay because I can say I beat them.
There you go.
I took 2 punt returns against them and got coaches fired. I can say that. So all that other stuff that you're talking about, it doesn't really matter.
And the Browns roller coaster continues, right? And that's what you're excited about because you have something to talk about every week.
Hey, we're coming back. We're coming back. We'll be all
Okay.
right.
We'll
be
see.
all right. You watch.
Okay.
Go
All right.
Dogs.
All right. See you. Okay. Good talking to you, Eric. Take care. All right. Take care, guys.